Hi, I'm Guneet back at Canem Network, and today I have with me Kushal Mehra. Kushal is one of the major Indian podcasters and also one of the key members of this conference. So, Kushal, talk to our audience about this conference.
Well, it starts in 2017, where the former Honorable Prime Minister of Canada talks about Canada being a post-national state. And what happens post that? The slow erosion of the idea of national sovereignty, the idea of territorial integrity. You cannot have national security in a post-national state because if it is a post-national state, the state doesn't exist. It's just an airy-fairy, free-for-all concept. And I don't think so. Most Canadians signed up for that. The policy landscape of Canada has kind of influenced that. And this conference is an attempt to correct that, to let people know that Canada is an idea worth preserving. Canada has an identity of its own, which is beyond we're not America. And this conference tries to talk about those uneasy subjects that maybe some people may not want to talk about it. I'm a product of immigration to Canada, but it does not mean open borders are cool. There has to be some criteria. The criteria has to be defined. It has to be colorblind and it has to be effective. And I don't think we can have that in a post-national state.
One of the key things I noticed about this event was this is hosted by two different groups of Canadians. One is Canada India Foundation, one is Tafseek. Talk to us about the two communities coming together and why is it important?
Jewish communities and Indian communities originally come from areas that live in hostile neighborhoods. People who usually live in hostile neighborhoods have a very different view of national security, and they want to preserve the place and the area where they live. So they wear their patriotism on their sleeve. So it's a very natural thing that a Jewish community and an Indian community would come together and would talk about national security. What is surprising is why aren't others doing it? That's what amazes me. I moved back to Canada 3 years ago. I was away for a while. And what I find is that the Canada I came in 2001 and 2 to study and the Canada I live in now, these are two separate countries. And it has nothing to do with the color of the skin. It has everything to do with what goes on in your head, where everybody's walking on eggshells. Everybody's scared. Everybody does not want to say the obvious thing out. And these two communities tend to say the quiet part out loud because, again, from where they come from. And they don't want those problems here. And they have identified those problems here is because they face them back home. And all they're trying to do, that both the organizations, is through this conference, trying to create awareness, educate people while learn at the same time. See, nobody has all the answers. We should never assume that we have all the answers in life. So we're here to teach and learn simultaneously.
What you think about the Canada-India relations under Prime Minister Carney? What do you have to say about that?
My official line I've always maintained as far as Prime Minister Carney is concerned is cautious optimism. As far as Canada and India relations are concerned, we don't see any reasons to question Prime Minister Carney as far as the India front is concerned since he's taken over, whether it's in the previous term where he took over from Prime Minister Trudeau or the current term where he won. The India file has taken a completely different turn. The last time, for example, CSIS in their annual report mentioned Khalistani extremism in Canada was in 2018. And then suddenly it disappeared. And now the 2024 report that has just been published this month finds the mention of Khalistani extremism again. So clearly, Prime Minister Carney wants to improve relations with India because the only sore spot between Canada and India is, honestly, it's just the Khalistani bit. And the only thing the Indians, from whatever I've understood, want from Canada is please don't encourage these elements that harm our sovereignty and territorial integrity and are consistently involved in violent acts in India. And at the same time, why aren't we talking trade? Let's say cumulative, whatever the figure, let's say what Canada buys from India and vice versa is 10 billion approximately. That's ridiculous. It should be 50 billion. We should be talking about trade, jobs in Canada, jobs in India. And all we do is argue like 2-year-olds because of a tiny group that is not even a representative sample of the Indian community over here. And they are a blot on the Punjabi community and the Sikh community. I'm a Punjabi. So they're a blot on the Sikh community because Sikhs are one of the finest Canadians. As of now, I think Prime Minister Carney has done all the right things, but you never know when things go south in Canada. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Thank you for talking to us, Kushal.
Thank you.